to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No announcements? Okay. We have no announcements this evening. We have no public hearings, and we have no select board appointments. So that brings us to appointments by the fire chief and the town administrator. And just take a motion, I suppose.
Are we making a motion now? All right, then I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Jaden Rodriguez as an auxiliary firefighter at Station 3.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then moving along to the appointment of the clerk at the Treasurer Collector's Office. Take a motion for that.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Beth Coltera as clerk in the Treasurer Collector's Office.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, moving along to new business. Considering a vote to acquire the easements for the replacement of the Fitzpatrick Road Bridge over Cronin Brook. We have Mr. Knoyer here to speak to us about that. That'd be great. We're intimidating Mr. Alamo.
Yep, I mean,
Just wait a few minutes. So, we applied for a grant 5 years ago to replace, it's the first bridge when you come off of Millbury Street down Fitzpatrick, just before Lottie Drive. Just really a culvert right now, undersized, collapsing. So we got a grant to do the design, then we get a $500,000 grant to do the construction. It's just taken between COVID and then the gas company had to move a line, and we know how slow the gas company is. So we're finally to the point. It's out to bid. The bids are supposed to be open on Thursday, and this is similar to what we did for Millbury Street sidewalks and Follette Street bridge replacement. There's 4 pieces of property that it touches, and it's just easements. Some permanent drainage easements. They were never required, way back in 1735 when they put the culvert in. There was no such thing as an easement, so it's just making it right and giving us legal access to their property for a time. Some of them permanent, some of them are just temporary. So.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, through you, Paul, have we had any concerns at all from residents on the easements?
Just a couple of routine questions. Will they be bypass pumping or putting a gravity drain pipe for the water? And if they are bypass pumping, is there a decibel limit to the pumps? All of which is in the contract. And we can't dictate means and methods, so the contractor would hopefully more than likely try and just do a gravity pipe in the ground.
Got it.
To not have to monitor a pump 24 hours a day for the duration of the project. So that's about it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else, Andy?
Sure.
Sorry.
What I know we've discussed it before, but what are we expecting, or do you have an expectation for the overall cost of the project compared to what we got granted?
So the grant was for $500,000. Our best guess now is probably 1.3 million. We can reapply for the small bridge grant program. There is some money left in that. So we'll reapply. Once the bids are open Thursday, we'll have an idea of what the true cost is. We'll reapply for the difference. And whatever we don't get from that, we would just use Chapter 94 in the end.
Thank you.
Paul, do you expect the design to be, it's gonna be a culvert bridge just like there is now? It's basically just gonna be a bigger version of that?
It's going to be a true bridge.
Really?
Yeah. A true concrete.
Is there a reason for that versus
just based on
doing the culvert and filling in around
the
it?
new guidelines with the different, with the weather, the more extreme storms, the more frequent storms. They've changed the guidelines for how, what they consider a 100-year storm, a 500-year storm. So it has to be designed to those levels now. So it's be a significantly larger structure.
It's gonna be precast?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes,
What?
Madam Chair. So I was thinking it was the other bridge, but now that you describe it, you're walking down Millbury, new sidewalks, turn left onto Fitzpatrick, and it's right there, right before, okay. So that, is that drying up? Is that why we're doing this? Cause it does look like there's like, the water's lower and lower on both sides.
Well, there was beavers that have been relocated, that were trapped. I mean, it's legal to, there's an official season for that, and you can be a licensed trapper and trap them. It's not,
Yeah,
they're no longer endangered. It's a legitimate function that people do. So people have obviously trapped some of them, which once they're gone for a certain amount of time, their dams deteriorate, break, and then the water flows freely through.
got it.
So
Unrelated, sidewalks look great.
Yeah,
Someone drove over the skirt.
there's going to be a lot of that between now and Craig and I talked about it today. Between now and the spring, until the road,
did.
the road will be repaved. They're 40% done.
Yeah,
It's
no,
still
they look
top
great
coat
though.
for everything,
Yep.
so
Thank you.
it'll be nice when it's done.
Makes my walk a little bit better.
Yeah. So
My question was on where the addresses were, but maybe I was thinking it was over on Eau Leclerc,
Yep.
yeah,
just past that, so
Me
it's well before, so Lottie Drive is the first right.
correct.
Yeah, and that makes more sense then, okay, thanks. Anything else? Okay, then I will, consider a motion.
All right. Madam Chair, I move the board vote to approve and sign the order of taking for the replacement of the Fitzpatrick Road Bridge number G-08-061 over Cronin Brook.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Paul. Moving along to, again, we'll have you stick with us.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Considering the vote to ratify the contract, for the neighborhood pedestrian improvement project at Overlook, et cetera.
So this is through planning. I'm here as Fiona's representative tonight. So just because I had to be here and we both were, part of this. So the planning board and Fiona trying to do some improvements in that whole area of North Grafton. Central CMRPC did a study and over, since 2001 they started. It's just been various iterations of that same study. And so as we met up there and tried to think of ways to connect the small Perry Hill playground to Whitney Park, which is kind of in front of Station 2 and just that square area on North Grafton Common, for lack of anything better. Trying to connect the sidewalk from the park to there, so then we can do some improvements at the park. Then it became painfully obvious that we have no idea where the lot lines are in that whole area. And you guys had voted to make one of the streets one way, High Street one way this way, the other street one way that way, which is great, but we just don't know. So we'd like to, we're going to put a sidewalk in inevitably, but it's where do we own, where do we not own?
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of pavement up there too.
there's a lot, and this it's costly for a small job, but it's a lot of title work trying to figure out who owns all that. It's a lot of time spent at the Registry of Deeds trying to figure out who owns all that property from really Perry Street, High Street, Overlook, Mill Street, that whole vicinity. So
Does
that-
Washington Mills own any property on that side of the?
they
have the mill
they
back,
own
but
some stuff.
like where the judo place was and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just vacant space now.
No, yeah, and then there's a couple of buildings on Overlook Street that they still own.
Yeah.
I don't know what they own on the other side. So
Might be worth talking to Peter Williams about that.
yeah, that's part of this whole thing is do some research and figure out who owns everything,
Yeah.
so we can get it.
Paul, are you guys going all the way to the end of Perry, including
No.
the dirt part of it?
No, it would just be. This would really just connect when you come up where Perry and Second Street kind of intersect. There's that little park.
Okay,
It's got
got
a dilapidated basketball court, and just trying to do some improvements in that whole area, and then feed off of that to Whitney Park, and use the Complete Streets money to do some of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that basketball court would be a nice CPC project, wouldn't it?
There's a lot of things up there that could
Yeah.
that would be nice. So that's what this is.
Any other questions or comments from the board? So this is essentially design type field work,
Yeah,
yada yada.
really, it's just field information gathering.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve the contract with VHP, the Neighborhood Pedestrian Improvement Project, And authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. And just one last question. So funding for this is coming out of,
Right now, it's out of there was some money from a grant that Fiona had received, I'm not really sure.
okay,
So
It's the Downtown Initiative Grant, I think.
yeah, I don't know.
and it covers this.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Paul. And
Staying anyway.
moving along, switch seats or something?
Yeah, because someone else has to talk.
Our next item is discussing with the truck committee considering a vote to ratify the contract for the fire department ladder truck.
Good evening. I'm Taylor Jonkis. I'm the chairman of the truck committee. I'll just give a brief overview of the process that's gone into this and how we got to what we're proposing today. This process started a year ago. The truck committee was formed in December of 2023. We've had numerous meetings throughout the course of the past year. In the Maytown meeting and subsequent vote, the $2.5 million was approved for this truck. What we met with various manufacturers of fire apparatus nationally known, 3 of which we sat down with in person. The proposal we're looking to move forward with is to sign a contract for a Seagrave 100-foot force aerial ladder.
Paul said if we need it. He never said he needed it.
See a picture.
on you,
Why
Paul.
not?
So the truck on the screen is something similar to the truck we're looking to purchase.
What station is this for?
This would be at Station 1.
Station 1.
And the quote for the truck came in at $2,059,994.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah,
We approved
Big
2.5, you said?
correct.
Yeah.
But I would just caution everybody from
Yeah.
thinking that that'll be
It's
the
gonna
end
increase.
price. Because if it's 1,000 days to get the truck, something like that.
The contract came in at 1,400 days minimum.
1,400.
So we're talking-
Calendar day, yeah.
Yeah. So if you extrapolate that out, they're gonna come back to us with an upcharge.
An escalation.
Yeah. and that's-
I believe the last time we sat down with the salesman, it was 46 to 52 months minimum. And they're also, one of the budget items that we had to put in the quote is a $70,000 option for emission changes for the engine.
You buy 8 front enders, which are crazy money. Those are 300 grand, which is hard to believe for a ready mix truck, but wow. Now, so the ladder truck that's there now,
Yep.
is that going to another station, or what is?
So what we're looking to do is to keep that truck as long as its useful life would be. And there was a couple things that went into that. We had a trade allowance done that came back very low. It came back at 25,000 the way the truck sits. And I think, judging by the information we've gotten from meeting from the manufacturers, they probably buy that truck and sell it for several $100,000. I don't think it was 6 or 7 years ago we spent several $1,000s just to put tires on the truck. So for the money that could be spent to do some rehabbing of that truck, keep it for its useful life, it also gives us a spare piece as far as having a second aerial in town if one goes down. And it's also, having 2 aerial trucks, especially with the proposed buildings in town. UPS just getting approved, that's going to be a big building, couple higher buildings down on Winslow Point, and there's other various projects that are in the works that are going to be higher rises. So that's what we would be looking to do.
Yeah, for 25 grand, it's crazy to get rid of it, right? Danny Diet will buy it. They'll give you 30.
Might be a little bigger than what he's looking for.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just what made you end up picking the manufacturer that you did?
So this would be our 3rd truck purchased through Seagrave. We've had really great luck with the quality of their trucks. The service following the purchase of the 2 trucks that we have has been outstanding. I mean, there's been times we've brought the truck down there for something that needs to be addressed, but not a big issue, and they're calling us in the afternoon telling us the truck's ready. We've just had exceptional service from them even on trucks that we haven't purchased through them, they've worked on and done repairs and just have nothing bad to say about them. They've always taken care of us. Like I say, on the 2 trucks we purchased and the ones we've had prior. The other thing is having the 3 trucks from the same manufacturer. The cabs are all pretty much the same. The switches are all in the same place. It keeps things streamlined as far as teaching driver training, knowing how to operate the trucks. It definitely makes it easier.
How old is this one?
The current truck we have, it's a 2000, so 24 years.
Wow.
Or actually, I think it was an 01. It was delivered in 2000, so it's still 24 years on it.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Taylor? Okay, barring none, I will,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I move the board vote to approve the contract with Seagrave Fire Apparatus LLC for the purchase of a ladder truck and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks so much.
Did a
Taylor.
great job.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Taylor.
Even with your sidekick taking pictures and stuff, you hung in there.
Put that on the refrigerator. You guys are staying? No. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thank
out.
you all.
Have a nice holiday.
Thanks.
Yeah, take it easy.
Great job with the Santa arrival. Okay, moving along. New business, right of first refusal, 40B resale at 72 Buttercup Lane. So we have some information in our packet about that, and I don't know, Evan, if you wanted to speak to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a straightforward 32B. I don't even know what that would be. 40B resale, as we did with the other Buttercup Lane. I know folks had some questions about that sale process, and we did reach out to Chapa, who runs the lottery and everything, and they are able to find a prospective buyer that meets all of the income requirements. So that'll be moving forward to being occupied again by another owner. So yeah, it's working out.
Any questions or concerns on this? Okay, barring none, Mr. Alamo will take a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo,
I move the board vote to not purchase the home at 72 Buttercup Lane for the maximum resale price of $231,800.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, our next order of business is considering a vote to add the remainder of the planning board term to the May ballot. So there is some information in here from Candy, and my understanding is that Greg took over a term earlier this year, and that term would run through to the next election cycle of May of 2025, even though it was Mr. Davison's term, which goes until 26. So Evan did pull up earlier because I had just some questions about this, how that works. Maybe you can go ahead and
Yeah, so
speak to that.
the charter specifies that you'll have your 2 boards get together, vote to appoint. That person will hold the seat until the next town election, at which time we will then put it on the ballot for the remainder of that term so that we don't get off in the number of years that each seat.
So it'll be a 1 year.
Yep, and then it'll be
1 year
back on the
term.
ballot. Yep, exactly.
So, yeah. So even though that term went till 26, the way our
Yeah.
charter, whatever
Yeah.
that indicates, yeah. Okay, so any questions on that?
No?
Okay. So I think that we need a motion for that, correct? Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to add the remainder of the term of the planning board seat currently held by Greg Dally Mole to the May 2025 local election ballot.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then moving along to discussing the Grafton Water District communications, and this is something that Andy requested to come on here.
Yep.
I'll let you kind of cue that up.
Thank you. I had kicked around a couple ideas with the water district commissioners and Evan as to how I felt the town could help get info out from the water district to residents more effectively. I wanted to see what they'd be open to and what could be possibly viable solutions before bringing them to this board for discussion. They've improved the frequency of their posts on their website. The new website's coming online soon. They greatly increased the amount of info they put on both their own social and other social media groups, which has all garnered really good feedback from residents. The first idea we had was getting the water district's monthly commissioner meetings on, they record them via Zoom and getting them over to GCTV so that they can be broadcast through our cable access and available through our YouTube channel. They put out a lot of good information and updates in these meetings, but it's similar to just about any other meeting. They're not particularly well attended, so another opportunity to get that info out I felt was a positive. Another idea was having the water commissioners either hold a joint monthly meeting with the quarterly meeting, with the select board, or perhaps getting one commissioner to come in, again giving them an opportunity to expand their audience a bit, and an opportunity for residents who might not be able to make their morning meetings to come to one of these ones and get some of their answers, get some of their questions answered. Ultimately, they're going to be doing construction over there for roughly the next 5+ years. So thinking that commissioners report similar to like what Evan does with our TA report and giving periodic updates to the board and the residents about where those construction projects sit, just could be another valuable interaction opportunity. The commissioners weren't in favor of the idea of them coming here, but suggested instead if the board wanted to maintain open communication and updates that we send a representative to their meetings instead. Anne-Marie and I have been attending their meetings pretty regularly. I intend to keep doing so. I acted as their representative when we discussed the parcel swap for the Trinity Ave well treatment, even though through engineering they decided not to move forward with that parcel swap. I feel like I just have a pretty good working relationship with them so far. So I wanted to see if the board wish to send a representative to the commissioners' meetings just to keep us and residents up to date, and if they would consider making me that representative.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Alamo?
Yes, I would like that.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes, Mr. Jefferson.
Madam Chair? It makes sense to me. Thanks for stepping in.
Yeah, thank you, Andy.
And I plan to continue to go, as I have in the past, so. Okay.
Thank you.
We don't need to do anything formal on that.
Nope.
Doesn't, Water District, again, does not fall under our purview, so this is just informational, for
So
informational
just
purposes.
one more thing, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, just real quick then. So Andy, would somebody come in quarterly to visit with us, or you will always go visit with them, whatever those meetings are, then come back and let us know what's cooking?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And I think there's been value to us attending the meetings. There's
Yep.
definitely been some real time info exchange and ideas that pop up, and continuing to support them, I guess, as they move through this process and support the residents as well. So.
Okay, moving along, to discuss the appointment of a temporary town clerk. So we all got an email relative to this, and perhaps Evan can
Yep.
speak to it a little bit more.
Yes, thank you. So, we have before the legislature a home rule petition to change the town clerk from elected to appointed. We've been waiting for that to go through for quite some time. It has passed the House. It has been in the Senate since September 9th. In speaking with the senator's office, they do anticipate that will pass prior to the end of the 193rd session, which ends on January 7th. So it puts us in a weird little limbo spot with our town clerk resigning, in that we're not at the point where it's appointed and we know that process, and it's and the point where I don't think we're gonna make it till the next annual town election to elect another clerk, so it put us into this weird spot. So, after doing some research, into the issue, you have a couple of options. One is kind of if you did nothing, the assistant town clerk still has the authorities of the town clerk in their absence. However, that's not really a viable solution if this goes on for 2 months, 3 months while we advertise and hire and do all of those steps. So it looks like there's two main options. One is that you could look outside for a temporary town clerk, so we could advertise it and see what we get for a temporary clerk. Or we could temporarily move the assistant town clerk up to the role of temporary clerk. Nope, sorry, I had one too many temporaries in there. Move Mike Jeanette, who is our assistant clerk, up to the temporary role while we go through the hiring process. And so that is what we're here to discuss tonight. If anybody has a particular,
I thought it was later in January, so at least it's January 7th. At our next meeting, we should have this information, at least for
yep,
you to
yep.
potentially proceed, yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yep, Andy?
So I reached out to Mike because I wanted to have a conversation and engage what his comfort levels were as we go through this transition. He expressed that he's very comfortable with the day-to-day operations around the clerk's office, though there are some higher level tasks that Candy, as the clerk, has handled herself. And he didn't have a chance to shadow over this past year since starting here. But he was very complimentary of the amount of times that and opportunities that Candy has given him to get up to speed on things and showing him the ropes. I think one of the bonuses of the situation, regardless of how things play out, is that we're headed into a relatively quiet year. We'll only have the local election to worry about, starting in February, which is enough of a stressor, but it's not like this year where we had multiples. Also spoke with him about staffing ideas. He's excited and would really like to try the role of interim and determine if it's both a good fit for himself and for the town. He very much enjoys his current role as the assistant and would have no issue or take no slight to us bringing in a temporary interim town clerk from outside. He suggested that if we appoint him in the interim, again, now we're still down a body in that office, that he asked if it would be possible, or suggested it be possible, that we talk to Candy about working as like a part-time consultant role to also help bridge that gap, and it gives him the opportunity to keep up with the in-office training. And he didn't say this, but it gives us somewhat of a safety blanket too, in that Candy's been through a lot of issues throughout the course of her tenure here, and has a wealth of historical knowledge. So Candy was also very complimentary of Mike. I spoke with her as well, and supported giving him the chance to cover the role in the interim. The only thing she stressed was that the town does handle everything with the local election. We don't really see any state assistance or federal assistance there, like we might with the larger election. So it's a lot to prep for, and just making sure he's ready for that. But that was really the only advice she had for him going in. So I guess kicking off the discussion, my suggestion would be that we give Mike a chance to test the role in the interim, and once we have some more direction on the hiring approach and how we choose to go forward with that, readdress the situation, then determine if it's a job that he would want to apply for permanently, and how we wanted to staff the department at that point, and would suggest that we have Evan work with Candy to figure out, I guess, what that part-time role could be.
Anyone else have thoughts?
Couple of questions.
Yeah.
I guess you want
No, go ahead.
So whenever I've gone into the clerk's office, Mike is usually the one that helps, and he's been great. How long has he been there in that role?
Less than two.
Couple years?
6 months?
I think about a year and a half.
Year and a half.
I would
yeah.
say a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
about
And did he come in with any type of?
He came from the DA's office.
Okay, so it's a new role
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, he did seem to. Everything I've worked with him on, he has taken up very quickly. Seems like he's very adaptable, smart guy, and he's got really great, in my opinion, really great customer service. I've never had any conversations with a resident to the contrary. Even if they don't like what the answer was, they still liked Mike. You know,
You can't
it's
teach
important.
that.
No, you can't. He's got the gift of.
Yeah, he's got good people skills.
He does, yeah.
But he's certainly green and learning in that role.
Yep.
A year and a half, June 2023.
Okay.
He came on
Yeah.
board.
Wow.
So I mean, my recommendation, someone like Andy's would be if he shows that he's capable of handling the majority of the load there, or understands how to service the community in most of the requests, then make her an interim. In the meantime, I wouldn't wait, get something posted and let's get through.
But we
you know.
can't, we wanna wait until, well, anyways, that, we could.
I
post
would do it
something for the
anyways.
Temporary.
I would start it. I mean, we know that that's coming. I wouldn't wait till the 7th. I mean, we're not, we're just waiting for the last box to get checked. The town's already
Right.
voiced.
Yeah, we've already drafted all of the documents we need to post it, so we're just,
Okay.
we were gonna wait till the new year hit, actually, just because of the timing of
Yeah,
getting stuff
yeah.
advertised and all that,
Right.
but yeah, that was our plan, moving forward.
And then, you can obviously get guidance from Evan and.
Yeah, and he, when I spoke to him, he did seem to have, I asked him about his network of people that he's met through different trainings, and does he have a good, bench, so to speak, to go to for people that have questions, and he feels that he does. I think we would also look for someone to play some kind of a consulting role, just in the meantime, just as a per diem or to have on the phone to reach out.
If Candy doesn't want to, or if we don't think she's the right person to do that, I don't know how she left and what her state of mind is, I guess, about the office and the town. But, Donna Gerard, I don't think it's been too long. She was very good at it. And I don't know, how long has Candy been in there? She's been in there 7 or 8 years?
She's
I think it
been
would
with the
be
town
6.
16, so.
Yeah.
So I think
As clerk?
she's been with the town.
Town, right.
Yeah, I think she was the assistant, and
think
then
it's
6 years or 7 years as
Yeah.
the actual
All right,
clerk.
so, I mean, it's just another
Yeah.
thought. Donna was great.
Yeah. Okay.
Mark, do you have something?
What are you looking for? Like, what are the qualifications that you are looking for a clerk? I was just
Me,
curious.
me
Well,
personally, or
Clerk, it's very
Guy
specific.
from
There's some,
Jersey and,
Not a guy from Jersey.
yeah,
there's some.
there's very
qualifications.
specific
This guy
guidelines
over here,
that the
comedian.
there's very specific guidelines that the state has, which we've incorporated into
Yeah.
our job description and ad. There's different requirements that you need to meet, so we look for that. But when we undergo the hiring process, I mean, our first and foremost things that we're going to be looking for are people skills, openness of dealing with people, understanding that what the role of the office is as opposed to just what the job description says. So
work ethic.
yeah, all of those things. We do the hire for talent, train for skill thing here, and I think we'll be looking for that in a clerk too. If we find somebody that's a little greener but has that personality that we think is going to be great for the Grafton residents, we will go with that over experience all day long and train somebody up.
And I think previously, some of our clerk, I believe at least Candy, that some of the letters after their name, so to speak, were done on the job, some
Yes,
of
correct.
that training. So there are some specific qualifications and what have you that you need to,
Yeah, your certification, you
Yeah,
have X
thank you.
I think it's a year from hire to get one of them, and then there's a subsequent one you
Yeah.
can do as well. So we do have some ability to hire somebody that doesn't have every single credential and
Yeah.
bring them up.
I think that's kind of what I was thinking about. Like, can it just be anybody that comes from anywhere? Or does that person have to have been in some form of town government or assistant clerk?
No, I think they probably could, thinking about the way that the job description is written and the law reads, you probably could get almost anyone because you have time to do it. But I don't think we're looking for that green. Hopefully we get someone that has some clerk's experience, municipal at the very least. But I think, you know, we've got great staff in the office now. We've got people around that can help. And, you know, we've got great relationships with our sister towns around, so I'm sure that if we needed information or help, we'll call and they'll help us out. They always, you know, all the towns around us really generally do. So, and we give them staff as well and help out and try to do what we can. So anyways, long story short, you know, as long as we find somebody that's got that right personality and customer service skills, you know, that's gonna be the bigger box to check, I think, than every single credential, in my opinion.
And by the way, prior to us voting this change and up until it's actually ratified by the Senate, this is a position that anyone in our town could run for, just like select board.
Right.
So, you know, that is hopefully going to change, but it literally could be anyone.
Right.
Yeah, so. So I feel that, for me, I think that the smartest thing is just to have the gentleman within step up to the interim position. And then what I would like to do is, I was wondering about how quickly you guys could start looking, because ultimately, once this gets approved, this is going to fall to your office. It's not really going to be up to us in terms of hiring and managing these folks. So, yeah, I guess as quick as you feel comfortable putting it out there, and if there is some sort of some need for some interim temp type thing, I would actually recommend like looking outward for that. Because, you know, Candy gave her resignation, it was on a certain date. She fully knew what we were up against in terms of this January 7th date and so on and so forth. So I would think that, you know, that might just be a cutoff, and perhaps we could find someone else if we needed. So do you need something from us to move forward, or that's just
well,
basically giving you the...
Since you've seemingly decided on a path forward, you could vote to appoint Mike Jeanette temporary town clerk effective December 20th.
And Evan did mention earlier to me that he had talked to him, and that if
Yeah,
we
he
were
was-
to go this route, that he was amenable to that. So it
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
just be a
didn't
surprise.
want to put it as a recommendation and have him be like, no, good.
Oops.
So
Mr. Allen, would you like to, or anyone like to?
I'd like to take a stab at it.
Sure.
you could also just say so moved. You'd be okay.
Oh, I was going to go further than that.
You
That's
took
a
the wind
good
out
call.
of the sails.
No, I don't want to.
You know what? Andy's right. I'm trying to take the wind out of my sail, and I think I should make a
Go ahead.
motion. I move the board vote to appoint Mike Jeanette temporary town clerk effective December 20th, 2024.
Second,
Motion made
man.
and seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, just while we're on the topic quickly, both Candy and Mike talked about Todd. I want to throw him a shout out too. He had big shoes to fill with Nancy Billings. She had done an outstanding job there part time, and both Candy and Mike had great things to say about how quickly Todd has picked up the role and helped out that office. So just a quick shout out and thank you to him as well.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Sorry. Okay, next is just reviewing the land disposition agreement for 1727 Upton Street. This was something that was in the PNS, the original PNS. And I, specifically asked Evan that we get this moving. The farther along we went in this process. So we all got a copy of it. I don't know if Evan, you want to just do a quick
Sure.
chat about it, and then we can open it to questions.
Yeah. So as Emery noted, this was a requirement under the purchase and sale. It is a very common requirement under a purchase and sale of publicly owned land that's going to a private developer. It's really used to clearly define the terms of the land sale, especially if there's specific development goals in mind, or there's a public interest consideration to be had, which I think this project, envisions both of those things. So, in essence, the land disposition agreement is going to tell the developer what we expect from them as far as what the project looks like, blah, 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 blah. And then it's going to give us two different options. One is the right of reverter, and the other one is the right of reentry. And so you'll see that both of those terms in this document. The right of reverter is an automatic reversion to the town. So if they didn't meet certain requirements, it automatically becomes town property again. And then the right of reentry is a mechanism whereby the town would have the option to do something. So you have to, with reentry, you have to actually take those steps to do it. It's not an automatic process. So in working on this document with town council, a lot of this is your quasi boilerplate legalese for an LDA. The part that, I think bears discussion or looking at is your section 6, terms, conditions, and restrictions on use. And so what we did here, rather than list every single discussion point, is to tie this to the special permit and site plan that were issued by the planning board. If you read that document, it is very detailed and has all of the different instructions in it. So again, rather than reinvent the wheel, we tie it directly back to that. The other, feel free to jump in if anybody has any questions, because I'm moving right along here. The other thing we did in this document that I don't think that Grafton has done in any other land disposition agreements, although we have not had a lot of them historically, is we added a section called the Grafton Connection Preference Criteria. I thought this was kind of cool in that it doesn't restrict anyone's ability to get into an affordable unit, but it does specify certain criteria in which someone would be ranked higher in the process. So the first one would be at least one member of the household is currently a legal resident in Grafton. The second one is that one member of the household is either a son or daughter of a Grafton resident. The third one is that they're an employee of the town of Grafton, Grafton Public Schools, Grafton Water District, and have been for a period of 6 months, or one member of the household is employed in the same, essentially. And the part that drew us to adding that language is really the conversation that we've had around affordable housing in general, and there are people in Grafton that have a need, and this is how your teachers, police, fire are afford to be able to live here. That's part of the talking point that we've had since the almost 4 years that I've been here. So I did like the way that town council wrote this particular section and laid it out, in that there is that Grafton connection piece and there is some preference given. However, if no one meets those criteria, then it's open just like the regular process. So it doesn't really restrict whether or not those units are going to be affordable or filled with an affordable eligible person. It just gives preference to Grafton connected or specific folks. I like the workforce part too. I thought that was pretty cool.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm just going to jump in instead of waiting for you guys, but who would monitor that, or who monitors that?
So we would enter into the same agreements that we've done with other 40B projects or affordable projects, so probably like a CHAPA or something like that. And then you can give them specific criteria that are over and above the regular lottery
Okay.
criteria that are needed.
And then just, below that, the next paragraph, it just indicates initial sale and then any resale. Should that be initial rental and any, subsequent rental?
Probably.
Yeah, just
I will raise
strike
that with the
those
attorney.
two things.
Yep.
The other thing I was thinking to strike maybe, unless there's something I'm not understanding, it's just on the second page, or sorry, page 3, number 9, the cash or certified bank check, the amount of $1 and it's.
Yes, yeah, that has to be
Okay,
addressed, yes.
any other, were you done?
I think I covered the broad strokes of it, but
I guess I'm just curious.
Yep.
How many people are town employees or employed by public schools or Grafton Water District, etc.? How many people do rent and live in the town now? Because I have heard that as a talking point, and I thought to myself, well, that's a great appeal.
the town employees that we have on, I don't know about the schools, to be honest with you. I don't know enough about the employees that are there. I don't believe there's any employees in the town of Grafton that work for the town of Grafton that reside in an apartment in Grafton, but there are a number that live in apartments, but live and commute in.
In other towns.
Yeah.
Okay. That preference is a preference, right? Like that 4 criteria.
Yep.
They would get sort of like special preference if there's a debate or a possibility that there's 17 units, 14 units, 1 unit.
Right.
We have to give preference to one of these to this person.
All things being equal, these
Yep.
give you a leg up in the process. If none of these criteria are met, then it's the same as every other affordable lottery that we have.
So there's 31 units that will be in the affordable component. So let's say 100 people apply for those units, 5 are
Yep.
people who work in the school, then they would be given some preference. Of course, they're gonna have background checks and
Right, all that
credit
stuff.
and all that.
I think it's
Yep.
great, Madam Chair. Thank you. And also, I thought you were mentioning you were getting something I was thinking about is, so that's the first initial rental. Is that always like that?
Well, it should, yeah, so they'll just change those two things
Yeah.
to indicate that rental and then any re-rental or subsequent rental, I suppose,
Correct, yeah.
would be the verbiage there. And so this is, a draft of it, so to speak. There's still some dates and whatnot, but
Right.
just looking for feedback and just any questions from the board. on
Yeah,
this.
in talking to council, we didn't want to get too far down the
Sure.
road if we were gonna have some
Yep.
major objections or red flags.
Madam Chair.
Andy?
Yeah, again, just want to also compliment the Grafton choice there. It's something that we've discussed quite a bit. I think it's, the trust has discussed it as well, and certainly something that they're on board with, and glad we can start, we have the opportunity to write into something now, and that's huge. So that's a great get right there.
Madam Chair?
Matt?
I have a question on the criteria. I love the local preference. And I like all of the criteria that we laid out. I would love to see us, in addition to son and daughter, consider adding parents as well.
Okay.
Because obviously any way that we can support bringing family members in town, and supporting that sort of multi-generational, household type of feel in our community, I think is a good thing to do. So there may be less of those potentially, but every person that we move out of a home and into a rental, and that's particularly applicable to the older population, it frees up another home for somebody else to live in. So.
And that's a great point, and one that has actually come up several times at the senior center office hours. People ask when that project is gonna get underway. There's like 4 or 5 people that have talked to me down there.
Oh, yeah.
When's it gonna come? When's it gonna be underway? What is it gonna cost? I need to get out of my house, essentially.
Yep.
Because they're just aging out, or they've lost their spouse and they're on their own and they feel it's too much. So I'll raise that with council. I don't see why that would be a issue, but
Thanks.
I think it's a good point.
That's the only
Okay,
one
great.
that I had.
Thanks, Matt. Anything else?
Just one
Andy?
more. It's a very light thing, but if we're talking about that, is there a reason that we have to go son or daughter as opposed to child and try and ungender it?
I don't know. I will ask.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, great. Thanks, Evan, for working on this.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a good thing for the town to have. Okay, moving along to select board reports. Anyone have any reports? Andy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kicking off with Grafton Water District, at their last, at the commissioners meeting this past week, they had to halt the PFAS pilot retake over at the Worcester Street wellhead. They had a motor failure and a seized pump bearing. The repair work is in for that. That well is currently offline anyways, and we're running just the Follette Street and East Street. The equipment for the PFAS testing will be moved to the East Street well instead, and testing will begin there, but they expect a shorter test period because it's such similar water quality to the Worcester Street well. Their administrative assistant Cheryl Carroll Tidman retired this month, so congratulations to Cheryl and their new office assistant Marlo Maynard started this past week. They also extended huge thank yous to GPD, GFD, the South Grafton Water District, and the DPW, helping them locate the water main break on that Brigham Hill easement a few weeks ago. That was a big issue for them, and just all hands went on deck, and they said it could not have gone more smoothly. So it was a big thank you. Also hit a bunch of the Frosty stops during Grafton Celebrates the Holidays, and made it back to the Common in time for the menorah lighting and Santa's appearance. It was really impressive to look at just the sheer volume of Frosty stops that we have nowadays. Stopped at the craft fair at the high school. It was massive. The Girl Scouts had just a ridiculous amount of gingerbread houses that were out for display and voting. Jay Cohen had his alpacas out front. Kids were just gathered around right up at the fence checking those out. So again, a huge thank you to Grafton Rec. I know they work really hard to organize this event annually. And thank you as well to all the volunteers and people and businesses that help sponsor it and participate, because again, we couldn't do it without them. That's it for me.
Okay, anyone else? Nope. I also attended the holidays in Grafton, and I was up at the barn for a while. Sustainable Grafton had a table up there. We had a lot of interest. We have a couple of initiatives that we are working on right now. And then again, attended a number of events around town, and great job to the businesses, and it was fun seeing the kids like chanting for Santa as he came down and whatnot. So I did post a video. Some people might have seen it, and it was just super cute. So thank you to all involved with that. I just any other select board reports? No, I'm just asking if we out of order. Were you here for public comment by any chance?
Was the Fitzpatrick Road Bridge being discussed tonight?
Yeah, we talked about it earlier.
Well,
Do you want to come on up? Yeah, come on up.
Well,
Sorry,
I was just wanted to, I mean, it's just down the street, so I just wanted to hear whatever the conversation might be on it. I'm one of the abutters, Paul Samar.
Okay.
116 Fitzpatrick Road, so the easement affects.
You got to grab
yeah, sorry. Just your name and address one more time. Sorry.
Paul Samar, 116 Fitzpatrick Road. So the easement, or one of the easements, affects our property.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd come in and hear
Yeah,
the conversation, curious as to when that project may get started.
It was one of our earlier discussions. So Mr. Knoyer was here from the DPW and indicated a start. They're just getting bids starting this week.
Yes.
They'll open bids on Thursday.
Okay.
Right. And so it'll likely be a construction start sometime in the spring. I don't know what the RFP has for a actual start date in it.
I don't know the exact start date, but it is in the spring.
And some of the easements were were temporary and some of them were permanent.
Right,
So,
I have one of each.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, which I don't object to. It's gonna be a big improvement, so
Yeah, they gotta get
it doesn't affect
Yeah, they just need
anything
to work.
that we do there, so.
Well, thanks for coming out. Sorry you missed it, but you can watch it on Rewind or certainly reach out to Paul.
Yeah, all right.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to sit through the,
Yeah, well,
feel free to stay.
yeah,
Right
all
before the
right.
town administrator report, she's like, I don't need you to sit through
No,
anymore.
Oh, it's all very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
No, my,
Thanks for coming in.
sorry, I just wanted to
No,
see
no,
if
that
was
makes
just a
perfect sense,
random
yeah.
thing.
I was thinking the same thing, kind of. Like, I wonder what agenda item we're
Okay,
here to see. All right.
okay, now that we've cleared out the room, go ahead, Evan.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
There hasn't really been any changes. North Street sidewalk, they are continuing to, which I actually have to change that from pre-construction. They are moving curb and doing all kinds of stuff up there. So everything else is kind of in winter conditions now and not really moving forward. You already discussed Fitzpatrick Road, and that was the only update I had as far as DPW. I did want to remind you folks that I met with DPW Advisory Committee, and they'll be here January or February. I'm still working on that with those folks to review the sidewalk plan and the asphalt management plan. All right. We held an event in Westboro, we being the Regional Emergency Communications Center, Metro West. It was really, this particular meeting was more geared towards, I think, Westboro's interests because it really had to do with the facade of the building, as well as the layout. But I thought I'd bring some of those back. So this is an old school. This is 20 Phillip Street in Westboro. If you're looking at this building, if you were to go just down the street to the left, that's where the fire department is, if you've ever been down that way. And so we did kind of solidify our timeline a little bit further. And we are still slated for an April to July opening in 2026 to flip the switch and have everything work there. You go to the next slide, please. So, it's going to be hard to see on these little screens. But there's two main floors that we're focused on the layout. And so this is the basement of the space. And so you'll see up front where those little boxes are, those are gender neutral locker rooms with 4 restrooms directly off of that. And then at the top of your screen there, those are storage space, IT, and the elevator shaft. This is the main floor where the action will be happening. So if you come in the front steps, which is what we saw just a moment ago, there will be a ballistic vestibule that you will enter into with ballistic glass to an admin. That admin would decide whether or not you get buzzed into the building or not because it is a fully secured site. To your right would be a training room. It seats about 30 people. And to your left would be the director's office down a short hallway. Just above that on this particular picture, there are 2 restrooms just off of the main dispatch room. You would then transition into the main dispatch room where we have enough seating and stations designed for 13 dispatchers. Immediately off of that room, so the upper right, that's the supervisor's office. And so you would have your shift supervisor, dispatch supervisor in that office so that they're immediately off the dispatch room to take care of anything that pops up. Just below that, you have the break room. Sorry, and the one other thing is up the left-hand side where there's a little X on that box. That's the elevator, and we would have to be adding that so that you could get up that. Yep. So there is a 3rd floor. It's just attic now, and it will remain attic, but we are provisioning that for additional space while we're doing the build out. And the elevator does go all the way to the 3rd floor. Again, there is, these are changes that really impact the neighborhood around it. Right now, as you're looking at the building, to the left there is some parking that's heavily sloped. We will be leveling that, and we will also be adding parking to the right side of the building to get our accessible spots or our regular spots and our accessible spots take up the majority of the end of the left-hand side, because that's where the vestibule is for the elevator. So this is close to what the final design will look like. We're coming to the end of schematic design. We're supposed to finish schematic design this week, and then start working on the finite plans and get ready to go out to bid and do all those rest of those things. We're also in the process of finalizing the executive director job descriptions and job posting. We'll be hiring an executive director, hopefully starting the process in January, so that we could have a paid staff member that could do a lot of the stuff that we've been kind of shouldering ourselves as a governance board. Yeah, and then just gonna keep working until we start construction. And but it was well received by the residents. There was only a couple. There was 2 people from Grafton, there were 2 people from Westboro, and 2 people from Southborough, and then a lot of chiefs. The whole room was basically chiefs. But the Westboro residents that had questions were really, I think, thoughtful and germane questions about lighting and sound, and we were able to show some other architectural renderings that I think put their minds at ease. So that was nice. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it for my rec update.
How many of these are there in the state?
26 currently.
Okay. Andy?
Madam Chair. So with 13 positions, do we have a rough idea as to what we expect to start with for dispatch?
No, so that's part of what the operations board is working out now. So it depends on a lot of moving factors, which are what are our standard operating procedures? How do we think that fire will be dispatched differently than police? So you really have to kind of, we have the numbers that were put in the original study, but they just give you kind of a rough estimate as far as when you're trying to figure out whether this is economically viable or not. The chiefs are really going to start to hone in on that over the next probably 3 to 6 months. We'll start to have a shape. We've also been in talks with folks at 911 about what other communities may come our way as we grow this out. With communities that are our size or smaller, you probably have the ability to staff this up to 6 or 7, maybe 8 communities. It depends. If we grab the bigger community, obviously that would eat that right up. But 911 is starting to really push communities into existing recs, so they're not going to allow funding off the ground to create a new rec for 2 communities. You'd have to have 5 or 6 communities that they're going to do that for, but those opportunities are getting less and less. So it does put us into a pretty good position here.
Any idea if the building envelope is going to need, any updates or anything? It looked a little dated in the front there. Like
So I'm sorry. Paul Canor is sending me pictures of myself in this meeting that he took earlier. I just want to say it's very distracting. But go on,
Poor
Andy.
Taylor over there. He's taking pictures of Taylor from the side.
it could be entirely too early for this. But have you looked at the building envelope at all? Like, are we going to be looking at all around window replacement? Is there brick reporting that need roof work, stuff like that?
all of that, all of the above. And then we are matching the elevator to the building with the same architectural design and the brickwork. So, but yeah, it'll look like it looks now, but spruced up. And that's really the intent, is to keep that. That's been an anchor building in that neighborhood for a long time.
Cool building.
It's a neat building, and so we want to. The group has worked really hard to make sure that, at least on the exterior, it keeps that character. We don't want to really change the neighborhood. As far as impact to the neighborhood goes, it's going to be like having a light office building, because except for shift change, there's nobody outside of that building, so it should be a pretty quiet neighbor to have. So, yeah, we're looking forward to making progress and hopefully getting someone so that we don't have to meet every week. That would be great. We're all stressed for time. But anyways, if there's no other questions about the rec, a couple other just some kind of things to throw out. I did our 50% of the year, so January 1 is our 50% mark. So far, the town of Grafton has either received or been awarded $919,000, 19,000. Oh, jeez, almost $1 million, just shy, 80,000 shy of $1 million.
I know, can we get the 80?
We're working on it. Actually, we got another grant today that's not in that, but I think it's like 26,000 or 27,000.
Chipping away.
So, what's that?
Chipping away.
We're chipping away. I will say that there's a huge chunk of that is Fiona, and she is hands down the best grant writer I've ever met. Really, she gets everything that she applies for. It's
How did the,
awesome. It's pretty awesome.
who applied for the one Grafton Common improvements?
So that's not in this.
Okay.
That was a conversation I had with the senator's office of things that they might be interested in funding. I did not include that in this because I have not had a conversation with them. I want to ensure that the language authorization means we're actually getting the money, because the thing with the bond bill,
It's not an earmark?
it's not an earmark, so it's in the economic development bond bill as I understand it. And I didn't want to put that in here because I want to make sure I have the right facts.
Yep.
Because in my previous experience, I had a whole write up in the paper about something that was in the bond bill that wasn't real. I look like a real fool. This is 2015, if you want to go look that up. But anyways, remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, so we asked the senator to put money into that economic bond bill in hopes that we get, if that $500,000 would go a long way to fix anything on the outside of One Grafton Common that we need to
Absolutely.
get done. So repointing windows, those kind of things. So, yeah. So hopefully, right after the new year, I'll have a firm answer on whether we're definitely gonna see that money, or if we need to continue to lobby at the governor's level to make sure it gets kept in the bond bill.
Great. If you need lobbying, let us know.
Will do.
Yep.
Will do. Okay. Library project. We are 100% complete and out of that space. So the last part of the cupola was to do the interior of the Wheelock room ceiling, and that came out wonderful. You were there today or yesterday?
Today.
Okay. How's it look?
Delightful.
Okay. It's like a smooth ceiling, which is what we're looking for.
Just a quick question. How's it been going? I haven't been following it as closely as I do sometimes, but how's it been going for the new director?
Okay. I think I'll just say I like Tom very much. I think Tom's actually a really good director, and I think he's really got his heart in the right place. I think it's a challenge, and not so much because of the work. I think he knows how to be in a library and work a library, but I think that managing that many people and the public and all those things, those are challenges. And you have frequent contact with him as well.
Yeah, along those lines, I'd say he is probably the strongest advocate of the Free Public Library I've ever met in my life. He's very good when it comes to talking about and promoting the library in a very good way. So from our interactions, he's settled in nicely, and when he needs something, he calls.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
At least this construction is off the plate, I guess.
Yes, and we just reached out this week. We're going to be putting together. He comes to our monthly department head meetings, but we're going to be putting together a monthly one-on-one with Mary Laurie, our finance director, Will, and myself to just keep our pulse on anything we can help him out with and the library out with, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, great, thanks. Awesome.
All right. I took part in a tabletop exercise today. So this is where we had the folks from Massachusetts Emergency Management, or MEMA, come in, and they pitch you a scenario, and we all have to decide what we would be doing at a specific time. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Mark Alves from Grafton Police Department. He's our school resource officer, and Kathy Cedarberg. They worked really hard to get this scenario set up and get MEMA in the room. And I also just wanted to mention, I've done these a number of times. We had great attendance and people that were really engaged in it, because it's really easy to say, oh, this is just tabletop, it's never going to happen this way anyways. And then that's really not the exercise. The exercise is figuring out what you don't know, but also getting you in the mindset that you're gonna have to think about these things on your feet. This is not something that happens to you every day. And now what are we gonna do? So we uncovered a whole bunch of things that we don't know or don't do properly or really need to have a better plan with. So we got all those written down. But it was everything from the schools to fire, highway. There was a really good turnout, 20 plus people. So
Great.
yeah, it was great, and I was thrilled to be a part of it. So
Good.
Yeah, and then lastly, budget update. So the department heads have their budget due to us on this Friday, the 20th, as well as the capital plan. They have been instructed, and I think I mentioned this in the past, that we are a level funded budget with the exception of our contractual obligations and salaries. So we're going to see what that looks like. I do think that makes it a pretty quick turnaround on our end because there's just not a lot of debate back and forth. And then we can start looking at how far we think we're going to be able to get with what we have. Our biggest hurdle that we have right now is going to be our health insurance renewal. Most communities are seeing 15%, 10%. So we actually just issued an RFP for health insurance. Yeah, I think it actually just came out this morning. So we're working our way through that process, and hopefully we can get that some semblance of where we're going to end up by January, so that we can finalize some of the budget projections. So yeah, that's
When
it.
does your current insurance?
July 1.
Okay.
Well, June 30.
Yeah.
We'd have to have something on board. So you will have in front of you at some point in the near future oh, I misspoke because I'm actually going to do it on the town's behalf. But it is, we're going to issue a notice to Mass Strategic Health Group that we are going to potentially leave them in June. You have to do it before January 1 in order for it to be binding. So we're going to issue that letter. And then, we may stay there, we may go somewhere else. It depends on what we can get.
The committee in place to,
Yep, so we have the Public Employee Committee, which is, Grafton's what's called a Section 19 town. So you get representation from the schools, from the administrative union, the police union, retirees, and then the administration. So,
and a consultant.
yeah, we have our consultant in place, yeah.
Is
Yep.
it the same one that did it last time?
So it's Ken Lombardi from NFP. So I think he's been with Grafton for quite a while. He was he might have even been
What company is he with?
NFP.
Okay.
So, he's got a good reputation in the municipal world. I like working with him, and we've had some pretty good results. Our move into Mass Strategic was a good move initially. Whether or not it winds up being a long-term move, is anybody's guess. Part of our problem here in Grafton, not to go off track, but we have a horrible loss ratio, generally speaking, in the magnitudes of like 115, 118%, which makes us very unattractive to insurers. So, yeah, we're going to keep navigating that, and we are working on some data points to try to help us pinpoint where we're having, kind of these claims.
Is there anything proactively that can be done to help manage the loss ratio?
Yep. I don't know exactly what it is.
Okay.
We are working on that right now, trying to get our data collected in such a way that we can actually use it for something. Grafton has a big usership of this catch-all of mental health, but it's a huge catch-all when you look at what insurance deems mental health. So it's not just, I have an anxiety disorder and I go to the doctor. It's very broad, and so what we're trying to do is kind of break those apart, and so that we can then see, okay, this is where our folks need the most help, and maybe it's okay. Maybe maybe we have a culture where people actually get the help they need, and we don't want to diminish that either. One of the things that we have kicked around, and I've talked to other town administrators about this too, and they haven't been able to execute it yet either, but is to create a space for employees of the town to exercise as an incentive. So you don't have to have a gym membership. We'll have 5 treadmills and a couple bikes and blah, blah, blah. And it's a benefit for the employees. And one of the things we were discussing is that, so every employee that you have that gets to the stage of being diagnosed as diabetic costs you at minimum $7,000 a year on your premiums. So if you spent $40,000 to create a little mini space for people to exercise on their lunch break or whatever, if you kept one of those people off, your return on investment's 5 years. So it's pretty interesting, and that's what they're kind of driving as well, is these opportunities for fitness that are no cost to the employee that maybe you can incentivize to help drive down the cost of our health insurance.
Another idea is nutrition.
Yep.
That's 80%. I mean, exercise is great, but 80%
Yep.
is eating healthy and eating correctly.
Yeah.
So if they can do that, then it's the gym. I'm not against that, but
No,
with the nutritionist that we could bring in for short money, I think,
Right.
and make available to staff, I think that could help us even more.
Yes, I agree.
So when,
I don't want it, but I agree.
Yeah. No Oreos.
Well,
So is, not to belabor this, but when you talk about looking at that loss ratio and looking at trying to reduce our numbers there, is that something the consultant helps with, or is that something
Yep.
that just within?
Yeah, he helps us with break down all the data. Because
Okay,
it's,
so they're getting the data.
yeah, and we don't want to see, we can't legally see a whole
Sure.
bunch of it. So we need the insurance company to break out that data for us, and our consultant is the one that goes to them and says, here's how I want the report to look.
Okay, great. Okay.
No, my computer died.
Yours did.
Yeah, that shouldn't have. But so I'm gonna look at this one over here. So this is an ARPA update. So we are heading into the end of our obligation, and so we're gonna have some work to do at the select board level. I do want to point out we made a couple of changes, and I added a couple things to this list that hopefully would keep it from hitting our capital plan. So one of them being, if you remember, we had the drone project, and I know drones not a real good talking point right now. These are not the New Jersey drones; these are regular drones.
Are they the Millbury drones?
Yes, they could very well be. We ran into some added cost because of the age of the cruiser that we were upfitting, and so the chief had requested that we spend a little more money. So that project went from $25,000 up to $39,572.05. And the chief also requested, and so I put it on here just for illustrative purposes, but $18,150 for upgraded ballistics. Apparently we were doing our ballistics gear through a grant process that's no longer available, and so this is the delta that we would need to find. So you'll also see, and Emery, this kind of speaks to a couple of your projects. So I swept skate park design, and I swept outdoor exercise equipment. So outdoor exercise equipment, and I won't steal Emery's thunder, but Emery has a plan to maybe get some of that subsidized, I guess is a word we would use. And so I had a conversation with Emery about carrying whatever that other balance is forward into the capital plan. So I still think it's a very worthwhile project.
So when you say they got swept, and I'm not asking this because they're my projects,
Right.
but I'm just curious, so swept where?
Swept into the bottom number, so they would be available for reallocation somewhere else. So if you look at
So
the
at that
balance of
1.08 million?
the
1.082?
balance of allocation is 222,629. That's what we have to reallocate to somewhere else. And so it became part of that number. So what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks is going through all these different appropriations and either, moving the money to something else or shifting it within the same framework and trying to keep it police is equal to fire and all of the other things to try to just massage these numbers. So, as it sits right now, we would look to reallocate 222,629 to something else.
And so the remaining balance, let's say, for example, on, well, the consultant, right, because it came in well under.
yep.
So just to look at that one light item, which actually, I thought that was 100,000.
It was.
Okay, so that's another one that got swept somewhere.
Yeah, we lowered that down. That's so the the money we saved there is what helped us cover the drone and the ballistics equipment.
Okay.
You know, so
Okay, but let's just say, sorry to interrupt, but over
No.
there, there's still that $12,000 balance, right?
correct.
So it was 20,000, we paid them, it's a little bit hard to see this, but let's say whatever, we're at $78,000, right?
correct. Yep.
So that balance over there, that 1.1082, we
Yep.
can carry that because
Correct.
it's technically been,
Already obligated and under contract.
okay. And so then come January 7th or whatever, that 12,000, we will
Still there.
probably won't spend on the consultant.
Probably not.
Never.
So when we get to the end, the idea is that you would then shift that over to your lost revenue, and it will end up in the general fund.
Okay, so they're not concerned about that, they being the
Correct.
feds that are looking
Correct.
at this.
All the outstanding balances that you see on the right hand side are either in process to be obligated before December 30th, or the balances are part of an ongoing contract.
Okay, so I just happened to pick that consultant one and noticed that it used to be 100 and now it's 20.
Yep.
But are there any other ones other than the consultant, the skate park, and the outdoor exercise that changed substantially with sweeping it somewhere else?
Not substantially. So, well, it depends on defines
Forget
substantially,
substantially,
but
just period.
yeah. So South Grafton Community House, we allocated 75,000. That came in at, sorry, it's too far away for me to see, at 42,000. So we pooled that into the rest of the money. Small balance from rec. Economic development, which was part of the planners project, we moved roughly $50,000 away from that and into the sidewalks on North Street to cover the deficit we had there, because it hadn't been obligated yet. We have part of it obligated as hotspots in the park project, but the rest of it was just kind of languishing a little bit.
Okay.
Schools have balances, and those are just outstanding, yet to be paid invoices, or the contract's not over yet type of work. I think those are the major ones, if I'm remembering correctly.
And I can speak with you offline on it too. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
with this, go ahead.
Yep. So we need to kind of think about projects for the 222 that we can turn around in fairly short order. Mary and I met and had some conversation about some outgoing projects that are on the list that the board might find interesting. One of them is your, we'll start with ours first, and then we'll go to yours last. Maybe that'll, no. Part of the conversation we were having was around fixing the clerk's office into a more inviting and open entryway when you walk into the municipal center. So again, counter and some kind of opening, whether that's glass or whatever. And then, you know, you would still have a side door to go in when you're doing your marriage intention, and a place for people to sit with a little more privacy than sitting on that little Amazon table that I bought that's in the lobby now. So just kind of zhuzhing that up a little bit. Go ahead. Oh, so, no, I thought,
I'm just trying to look at it. Yeah.
that's a project that we may want to consider. The employee fitness that I just mentioned is something that came up in conversation, and then you have your sign, and so I'm really pushing Sunshine to get us that quote hopefully by the end of the week. But there's, you know, we had talked about that being about 125 ish. And so, you know, that's a considerable nut to tackle that I think gets at the core. Personally, I think it gets at the core of what ARPA was supposed to be designed to do, which is, you know, help us with our systems that can hopefully inform the public or defray impact to the public should we have another major event. I mean, that was a big part of it, right? I also got email from Chief Matthew. They would like to do a sign very similar at the fire department at Station 1. And so, you know, there's potential we could make that into one kind of project.
And you need to get those quotes by the end of this year.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say, I told you it was the end of this
Yeah.
year.
Both.
I had that in my brain the whole time.
Both Mary and I and the training we went to had a different understanding of what
Yeah,
the word
that's okay.
obligated meant. And I would stick to that obligated meant something different before, but I can't be sure of that, so.
But you think that we can,
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some well, our finance director is Wiley. I think we can
I
get
hear
it.
that, la 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 la.
And terrifying. Yeah, so that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions from the board? I was on the ARPA committee, so that's why so many specific questions, maybe, related to it. You might not have known that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving along to correspondence. We didn't have that many this week. Anybody have anything in correspondence they want to talk about? We have resignations. I'll take a motion on those two.
Yep.
Mark?
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Candy LaValle as town clerk.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Andy?
I'd like to thank Candy for her time in Grafton. She's worked in the clerk's office for, I believe, about 12 years now, which is a long time anywhere, and arguably like dog years in the municipal setting. You know, that role has grown and changed quite a bit during that time, and Candy worked hard to expand her certifications and grow into that role. She's you know, outgoing and a calm demeanor, and I feel like she's been a bright spot over there, and just wanted to say congratulations on you know, whatever comes along next, and thank you for your service to the town.
Okay, any other comments? Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion made, or sorry, carries 5-0.
Madam
Moving
Chair,
on to- Yep, go ahead.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Beth Coltrera from the positions of Board of Health Admin and CPC Admin.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Any public comments? And thank you for letting me have him come ahead. I just figured if he's just
Oh, no,
sitting here
I'm
for-
always in favor
for
of
one
that.
thing.
Yeah.
And then I also am thinking, if you're at home watching, I didn't mean for you to skedaddle. But anyway, any,
He may have been waiting for the opportunity to skedaddle. 'cause
Perhaps.
We have seen that a number of times.
like the fire
Yep,
guns, yeah.
yep.
Anyone with hands up, William?
No hands on
Okay,
Zoom.
so no public comments that we see. I will take a motion relative to the meeting minutes.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for September 10, September 11, and September 17 of 2024 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments,
I have
questions?
one
Yep.
thing, yeah, the September 11th meeting, that was a scheduled executive session meeting that got canceled, and I don't think it's necessary to put the reason for the cancellation in there. Amber does a great job with the minutes, but sometimes I think there's a lot of detail in here, and this, I don't remember that being the reason. If the board thinks that was, I thought we canceled it because council was saying it was inappropriate to be talking about
What's the
potential
reason?
litigation at, you know, we had this discussion
right.
like 15 times.
Right.
It wasn't about releasing the lawyer's opinion.
Yeah, I think that might be confusion. So
Right.
why don't we pass over that one? And
Or just accept it without, like I said, I don't think we need the reason. Just say that the executive session was canceled and delete this
Sure.
paragraph.
No, I think
If
that's-
the board
that's,
is fine with that.
Yes. Yep.
Yep, thanks, Craig. Okay, so we
So,
could amend the motion to include that change presented by.
If she
Craig.
wants to redo them, we can vote on them another time, but we can do it with the changes, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree.
so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Any
I'll take
further
that one.
discussion?
Now I'm tired.
Nice job on the end there.
I had a lot more energy half an hour ago.
Covered.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Been
Motion
working
carries
hard.
5-0. Thanks for clarifying that, Craig.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
No one is opposed, and we
All
are
right, happy
adjourned.
holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy
Say
holidays.
something about that too.